All right, well, welcome back to the Sean Trace Show. I have a special guest today, Mr. Yuki Noguchi. Now, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you for having me.
For sure. Now, do you mind telling the guest who you are and what you do?
Yeah, my name is Yuki Noguchi, and I am a cinematographer, director of
Nice.
photography in Los Angeles. And originally, I'm from Japan, and I've been living in California for 16 years, since
Nice.
2005. So yeah,
Oh,
that's what I
cool.
do.
Nice. That's very cool. Now, how did you get into cinematography?
Yeah, that's you know, let me think. So yeah, I got into cinematography because, well, I wanted to make a movie. I wanted to make the movie
Okay.
has been always, in the center of my
Yeah.
heart for a long time, and wanted to make, you know, uh, if you love something, you wanted to create something. So I wanted to be a
Totally.
filmmaker. I knew that from like maybe middle school, and yeah, I wanted to make a movie. I grown up in Hollywood movies, and I wanted to come to California and make movies. But I didn't know anything about making movies, when I was young. So I wanted to be a director, like because I thought that
Yeah.
that was filmmaker, right? For everybody, director is a filmmaker. And when I got to, so I went to Chapman University, and when I
Yeah.
got to Chapman University, I learned that there are a lot of like different people who's doing different things. And yeah, I quickly realized that what I was interested in is more cinematography than the directing. It's about
Yeah.
telling the story through visual than telling the
Yeah.
story through, I guess, performance and actors and so forth. So yeah, I love it, and I've been doing that for a while.
That's awesome, man. It's really
Yeah.
interesting that you knew this since high school. What were some of the movies that you watched that are like, man, I have to do this? Do you remember some of those movies that really
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's kind of funny story because I think
those are the best stories?
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I kind of grown up with playing video games, like as
Awesome.
any Japanese kids do. And then there was like, Final Fantasy was very, very big thing in Japan,
Yeah.
and I was playing like Final Fantasy, I think from 4 to 7, and I always wanted to make a video game. I think that's kind of what I wanted to do. And my grandpa was actually a painter, so I was also kind of interested in making visual, so forth. And like in Japan, like manga is very, very big, as you guys
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And
For sure, man.
so those are the things that I was interested in. And then like the core of those, different type of things that I was interested in was the visual and the storytelling. And essentially the movie that I watched, and um, sorry, backtrack. Essentially, I went to see Michael Bay's Armageddon, one day, and
Man,
I,
I had the feeling. I had the feeling you were gonna say Armageddon. I don't know
yeah,
why.
it's I throughout the years I met few DPs who were inspired by Michael Bay movies, and I think that was, to me, that was like just mix of everything. Like it made me cry.
Yeah.
It was exciting, and it had a space and sci-fi's and all the things
Right.
that I think kind of everything is married to each other. So yeah, at that moment, as I was walking out the theater, I was thinking like, okay, this is what I want to do. This is everything that I want to do.
That's so awesome.
So that's the story.
People, Armageddon is an underrated movie. Like, because you really do have so much in it, which is so cool. I love Armageddon. Now, my question too. I have a question. That's something that you said that was really interesting there, and it's something that's similar to me. Um, and I want to ask you about this. Like, for me, when I was growing up, my father was a photographer. He was an exceptional photographer. and he was taking photos all the time. And when I was a kid, he went and was doing archaeological photography in Jordan, and he was taking photos of a lot of these archaeological digs, and it was a really cool thing. And he'd send us photos back, like the actual photos, and it was really cool to see this stuff he was doing. And a lot of his from an early age, he taught me about framing. From an early age, he would teach me about, he would hold the camera up and be like, this is what you want to take a picture of. See this, rule of thirds and things like that, a lot of kids aren't getting. Now, you said that your grandfather was a painter. Do you think that there was any influence from that on the way that you see the world, the aesthetic, ideas? Visual
Yeah,
style?
let me try to connect the dots, but yeah, I think, I mean, definitely he was. I mean, he wasn't like professional painter. Like he was
Yeah.
just painting on the side, and he paints like
Mm.
grandkids pictures and so forth. I think definitely it. Like I have some paintings and some
Mm.
drawings that I did because of him, and but did I learn anything from it? I'm pretty sure it intrigued me to
Mm.
be interested in more like photography or image making, but I was very young at that time, so I think
Probably not
most of my
spot.
inspiration really comes from just watching Hollywood movies, which is
For sure, man.
kind of cliche, but I think as I was like young kid in Japan, like it's a foreign film and it's huge in Japan, but still
Yeah.
like I was watching way more movies than any other friend of mine, and yeah, I don't know. I think those inspiration. I actually, to be honest, I don't even know what the compositions are. I don't know. Like I don't know any technical things about designing, which I'm trying to learn a lot more these days. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe someday it'll just circle back. Oh, my grandpa said this, and like
Yeah, you
this
never
is what
know,
he meant.
right?
Like yeah.
But that's really cool. Like, and it's interesting that the inspiration that you had early on. Now, it's interesting that there is this. I live in Asia. I live in Vietnam, and it's really cool because Hollywood's influence internationally is huge. And in those blockbusters now, before it was Armageddon. Now it's like a lot of the Marvel movies. And it's this. People get really inspired by these movies to get into the arts, which is kind of cool. Now, you moved to the U.S. and you started getting into cinematography. What were some of the steps that you went through as you started working? What were some of the dots that you connected there?
As a DP or as a like
Or moving into your career, what were kind of some of the
yeah.
steps? You finished school. How did you get going?
Yeah, so I went to school in Orange County, and which is like about an hour away from Los Angeles, and
Yeah.
um, so as soon as I graduate, I started working as assistant camera or like a
Hmm.
gaffing or just being any crew members
Anything.
that I can be, and I guess truly like anybody, like anything that pays me, and
Right.
on top of that, I was trying to get as as many DP jobs as possible or opportunities. Like it wasn't even a job; it's opportunities, right? So
Yeah.
I was just doing the things that hey, work as hard as possible, trying to connect the dots, and slowly the people who I went to school with, like the directors that I went to school with and producers that I went to school with, like they started making things. So we
Yeah.
make things with like with our own money, and
Yeah.
slowly that just turned into the paid work. But yeah, I was doing a lot of crew positions. I think I did a lot of AC work, probably solid 2 3 years of crew members, and then slowly that drifted to like a little more DP stuff, and then now like feels like nobody asked me to work on anything else. Like,
Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah.
Well,
But,
and what did you find as you became a DP? What were some of the things that you really liked to focus on? I mean, what genre of movies do you really like doing? What's kind of your style that you really like?
yeah. Well, so I think this kind of interesting story here
I
to
love
tell,
it.
I think is, or like to dig into is like, I think as I became DP, it was nothing like what I thought it was. You know, it's, well,
Interesting.
let's say not nothing, but like it was really different from like what we are set out to do from school standpoints. So in school, um, essentially my like the biggest I think the moment that like my Armageddon moments to be a
Yeah.
cinematographer was essentially one of my teacher. Well, let me actually tell you a story why like I became cinematographer
Okay, cool.
because I
We'll
think I
start
just fell
there.
into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I fell into it.
Okay.
I was a young kid in school. I actually didn't go to Chapman University. I transferred to Chapman University. So when I
Okay.
was going to community college down the street, I
Mm.
met some people from Chapman University, and I started working on Chapman University project. And
Mm.
obviously I wasn't students there, so my positions that were like, assistant camera or grips or whatever they need, and mostly assistant camera. Like, my friend taught me everything about being AC, so I work with this guy like every single weekend, and
Hmm.
that's kind of how I fell into the camera side. I think
Nice.
there are a lot of like young students who want to work on film set. They are like they take any grip positions or any AC positions, like as many free hands as they can get. So
Yeah.
I fell into camera department, and one day, the moment that I thought that I wanted to be a cinematographer, my mentor, Bill Dill ASC, like he taught me that, hey, like one day he asked me like, so why are you doing this? Like you need to know if you want to place a camera with this lens and with this height, you need to know why you want to do it, and
Mm.
that's how you tell the story. And that moment, like something clicked. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm like not as smart as other people, but that's the moment that I felt that, oh shoot, everything that we do in this filmmaking process is to tell a story. Like everybody has this opportunity to tell something, and wow, I have a lot more control and a lot more influence in story than what I thought. Like so, that is, I think, kind of interesting transition for my career.
Mm.
That realization is still like pretty deeply, embedded in my to what I do. But so I forgot your question, I guess.
No, this is
Is
great. It's awesome.
but it was yeah,
This is a great story. We go where we go, man. There's
yeah,
no
yeah.
preset path.
Yeah, I was gonna tell the story of it was nothing to do with like, so yeah,
There you go.
essentially essentially so that's what I thought. That's what I thought the cinematography is, and I think that's truly what the cinematography is still, to tell the story through like, anything that you can do, and especially like lighting, right? Like lighting is a big thing. Like
Yeah.
what are you telling? It's not about the beautiful image, it's about the story to tell. So yeah, and then I think past 10 years or so, like as a DP, I feel like I started learning that some of those ideas are just good to have, but also has not, like, it's, you're not asked to do that. Like, nobody is asking you to like tell a story in commercials. Like obviously narrative is
Yeah.
different. Like, and to give you the idea,
Yeah.
like I do a lot of commercials, and
Yeah.
yeah, so in one way I learned what the cinematography is, but in a real world, like especially commercial world, like the amount of those storytelling skills that you have to use is a lot less, and it's more about the
Yeah.
film politics, and it's more about
Mm.
managing your crew. Obviously, like they'll let you do what you want to do, right? Like they'll like as long as you're on budget, on time, like that's like
Yeah.
those are like two important things, and I think yeah. So I guess I'm not like I think director might appreciate it, but like a producer doesn't care. Like if I tell a story with lens or like what lens I
Yeah.
use or like yeah, stuff like that. So yeah, I think I'm having a little bit of interest in transition, but I'm trying to get back to more narrative stuff. I guess which was your question and
No, it's all
what I
good.
want to
It's
do. Um,
yeah.
I do a lot of commercials, and that's most of my bread and butter right now.
Yeah.
But slowly, I want to transition into, I would say, commercially made narrative work. That's kind of what I
Hmm.
want to do, like a TV, TV or feature film, but something that's
Yeah.
made for people to see. And then
That's
that doesn't
awesome.
mean that's like, uh, it doesn't exclude like a Sundance movie or anything like that. I think those people make movies for specific reasons, but yeah,
Yeah.
like I guess, yeah.
But you want to get you want to be doing something that's more broad audience, long term.
Yeah, I think films made for audience. I think, I don't
Right.
want to make something because like one person, like director or
Right.
producer wants to make it or,
Yeah.
stuff like that. I think it's made for audience, which is, I think, another big lesson that, like a film school doesn't teach you is
Tell me about
that,
that.
well, I think a film school doesn't not really focus on, it focus on fundamentals, right? Like tell the story, like
Yeah.
um, tell the story through cameras and so forth, which you cannot really do till you get into like AC or like you start shooting like a big movies or big Sundance movies.
Hmm.
And sure, you could possibly just keep shooting like indie features, but like truth is like you're fighting with page count, right? At that point, you're fighting with page count, um, fighting with like a budget, and then you end up shooting script. And I
Yeah.
think what the fundamental of cinematography is like okay, you have to shoot script, but also there's more to it. You're shooting the subcontext or subtext, yeah. Um,
Hmm.
and shoot, I forgot what I was gonna
No,
say.
no, no.
But yeah,
That's really interesting. That's a good point because a lot of people don't, is film school worth it? You know what I mean? And I think in a lot of ways it is, but I still think like what you're saying, there's some of the practical skills that are not taught, you
yeah.
know.
So well, I guess I remember what I wanted to say. I think the
Please.
films the thing that film school does not teach is this business is called entertainment business,
Mm,
and it's not like I think it's we want to tell a good story because I think it serves for entertainment. I think in
yeah.
order to be entertained, it has to be the most exciting stories, and that
Yes.
not I don't like. I'm not talking about the plot. I'm talking about like character-driven stories, and
Mm,
but it also has to be business, and which
hmm.
is like comes with management skills. Like you have to be on time, you have to be on budget. Stuff like that. And I think film school does not teach any of that, and then you have to learn those skills as you go. I think
Yeah.
that's part of like I think cinematography in school was nothing like real life
Right.
cinematography, but which
Right.
you learn like everybody learns, but it has to be
I
kind of said. It's just the dark side of I guess film business that not many film school wants to teach, but a lot of filmmakers are only talking about that. Like nobody's
yeah.
talking about I mean only DPs are talking about you use this lens and like this lens has this characteristics, and yeah, maybe directors might be interested, but producers that they care.
They like make the
Yeah.
film, get it in on budget. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things I started my work in front of the camera. I started out doing some acting, and I trained as an actor. And then after I was on set a bunch, I I started getting behind the camera because I was watching what people were doing. It was really interesting. But even for an actor, like you go to these acting classes and they train you to do this and that. When you walk on set, dude, you throw that out the window because it is nothing like that. It's like, okay, we're going to do this. The camera's going to be here, and you got to then do it with like 40 people watching you. You know what I mean? All sitting there, and it's like completely different. And I don't think any aspects of the business, whether it be music or film or a lot of these, I think one of the foundational problems of these creative arts is that they don't teach people real world skills when you're getting into it. They teach you great theoretical skills, great creative skills, but once you get there, you gotta go, wow, how do we make this work? And so that's a really good point.
Yeah, it's hard to sell to the parents to get their
right?
kids come to school because we teach dark side of industry.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's the thing people have to realize is like at a certain point in time, you have to make money. And there are certain fundamental things that you have to do, and one of them is finishing on budget. People don't realize that. It's nice to be creative, it's nice to have a passion project, but you got to make it real. Now, what are some of the projects that you've been working on recently? What are some of the things that you've worked on recently that you had some fun with?
Yeah, the fun ways are like the project that I worked on recently. Those are two different things.
Two different things. All right.
Yeah, no.
Let's start with recently, what you're working on.
Yeah, recently. So as you know, I didn't contact you. I was in woods in Ohio shooting this car spot, and I didn't have any signal. Thus, I couldn't contact you.
No worries.
Nor anybody else. Everybody's mad that I was gone. But anyway, yeah, I was shooting car spots in woods, and that was fun, and it's challenging, but we got it done, and then now I'm back with one piece.
And it's the most important thing.
Yeah, before that, a lot of commercials. Like I do lots of commercials, and
That's awesome.
All the shoots are like 1 to 2 days. This car commercial was 3 days, but yeah, like I rarely work longer than essentially a week, including tech scout to the shoot day.
Interesting.
But I've been somehow fell into this documentary world a little bit.
Oh, and tell me about this.
Yeah, I mean, not super a lot to tell yet, but
starting out.
Yeah, starting out. Yeah, I've been on this. We're shooting Tom Brady documentary right now, and
that's cool.
Yeah, because he's cool, and not because of us, but he's cool. And yeah, we've been shooting the documentary for 2 years, which is like probably the longest project that I've been on. Obviously, pandemic slow us down, but and I'm flying a lot for that project. So lots of flying these days. I think if I remember 2021, it would be a lot of flying. Like, flights.
You're in airports a ton.
A lot.
That's interesting. Yeah. Now, when you think about like as a DOP, when you approach a project, whether it be a commercial or a documentary, how do you go about preparing for that? Do you start off thinking about camera? Do you start off thinking about shots? Do you start looking at the script? What's kind of your workflow as you approach a project?
Yeah. I mean, which version do you want to know? Like a darker version or like a kind of more like polished, clean version?
Whatever you prefer, man.
Yeah. So I think, well, first of all, normally like someone texts me, right? Like a producer or a director texts me, hey, are you available on this day? And then I'll try to get the scope of the shoot. I'll try to get like, budget or like, how many crews we have, what the creative is. Like if I don't know the director, I research on the director.
Okay.
And I go from there, and then I'll also ask them like, hey, what's been decided? Like, do you guys want to shoot on Saturn cameras, or like, where are we shooting? And then like the thing about commercial, the reason the commercial is not so it's hard to make it creative is it's already decided. Like a lot of things has been decided,
Really
so I'll try to
100%.
find out okay what those are, and
Yeah.
from there I pretty much spend 70-80% of my time, my prep time, figuring out logistics, like and those
Crew, gear.
intertwines, logistics and creative intertwines, but
Mm,
essentially as I think more about the logistics, like what kind of lights that I want to use, what kind of camera do I want to use, and how
yeah.
quickly do I have to move, that would kind of narrow things down to essentially creative. And I think in a way for me, like being like I think creative needs to be natured or nurtured.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not an
Nurtured,
English
nurtured, yeah.
speaker,
No, no,
but
yeah.
nurtured. So I think you have to spend a lot of time with like idea, and here and there you think about it. Like you sometimes you try to look for inspiration, trying to like go through all the whatever the commercial that they made before, or like go to their website or go to director's website and try to get inspired by something,
Mm,
or walk around and like kind of think of the project a little bit. But I think it just requires time. So like I just leave
yeah.
that a little bit aside, and we'll just walk on logistics a lot. Like I try to book like fast ACS, and it's like I get a call like, hey, like are you available on this day? Because I think camera depart. I don't want the camera to be problem. I think that's the only thing that I can't really fix on the day of. So yeah, I try to book my team, and then yeah, I'll work on the logistics and create like,
That's
and
awesome.
then once logistic is done, finally like, and then like a week before the shoot, a few days before the shoot, we go to scout. So after the scout, I slowly start thinking, okay, so these are now like you have to shift it a little bit, right? Like
Yeah.
and the
Do you
shift.
ever have to go, oh man, we got the wrong camera, or we're gonna things like that, or what are some of the things that you have to shift?
Um, I think a lot of times, like sometimes, well, definitely budget, but
Mm,
sometimes it's about the location. Just location doesn't work the way that we want it to be, or
mm,
um, someone says something like if someone from another agency says like, "Hey, we want to do these kind of things instead of that." Stuff like that shifts us a lot, and I think director deal with that a lot more than me. So I think DP on a commercial are pretty left behind, like like because art department has to deal with the agency, and
yeah.
director has to deal with the agency, and like they tend to not really care about what cameras we shoot or what DPs that they have. Like they do have to know who the DP is, but once they are hired, we are not part of pre-pro. We're not part of like
Interesting.
specific thing. Which yeah, it's very interesting because like I think the DP has a lot of like power to make
It's an important
picture look
position. You know what
what
I
it
mean?
is. But for ad people, they care about casting. They care about what they look like or what they're
Yeah.
wearing or what we have in the background instead of like I guess exposures and lenses and so forth. Like which I get
I
it. Yeah.
my wife is a celebrity here in Vietnam, and I do a lot of her shoots, and I understand what you're talking about. Like, I'll be thinking, this photo looks great, and like I like the layout. This is the camera I chose, and then we get back feedback, and it's like, can you turn the product this much in the background? And we're like, okay,
Yeah.
sure.
They're trained in a
Th-
print medium. Like
that's right.
yeah.
And
And
that's what they want, is they want things to be look this way, and you're not expecting that all the time, and that's what always catches me off guard when I'm doing advertising stuff, is that I'm not always expecting the feedback that's going to come, but
yeah.
it's never what I would think it was going to be. But it's interesting now, and that's interesting because then I guess approaching a documentary is going to be a whole different game, right?
Yeah, yes and no. I think it's Well, first of all, our documentary is heavily just interview. So we are just
Okay.
shooting shit tons of interviews throughout. Uh, yeah, I think I can't really speak for true documentary. I think this is like
Interesting.
interview documentary or archival documentary.
Interesting, because you'll be
But
then
I
using archived footage for mixing it with interviews, kind of like what was it? Michael Jordan's The Last Dance, the Bulls
yeah,
documentary.
they want to be the second version of that, so that's what we are doing. But um,
Nice.
yeah, it's archive. It's about his, you know, Super
His
Bowl,
career.
and um, yeah, it's gonna be a lot of archival footage. But I think the skill to me is like I think that DP's one of the DP's biggest job on set is to work with actors
Mm,
and to make sure they're comfortable, but also make sure they're experiencing. Because it's so hard to act to begin with. Like if they have to fabricate something, that's really hard.
yeah.
So I try to make sure, yeah, people are comfortable. I think it's like a kind of like I think filmmaking is a circus, right? Like everybody says it's a
Right.
circus, and it's a
Yeah.
moving village. And I think DP is kind of like a conductor of the village, and then they can say, "Hey,
Hmm.
like let's just make sure these things are here because these, so they can be comfortable, or
Yeah.
so they can do their job." So I focus a lot on that because we deal with like very high class athletes, and like just trying to make sure that they have like they can walk in and they feel welcomed. I think that's kind of important, and like a small
And I
things
don't.
like yeah,
Yeah.
like just trying to make sure that like okay, so it's gonna be a conversation. When you have conversation, you
Hmm.
mentioned that when you walk into the set, you see 40 people. Like that's not
Yeah.
good. Like if you're trying to create like one-on-one conversation, you're not
Yep.
supposed to see the 40 people. So yeah, stuff like that. Like you just make sure nobody is in eye line. Like try to cover as many other distraction as possible, so like they can focus on what's important.
And that's a really good point that, and this is something that I think for the actor's side, acting training, they'll have like an on-camera class. In the on-camera class, someone's got a DSLR, aimed at someone, and it's this tiny little camera with a tiny little mic, and people are like, "Yeah, it's preparing you for what it's like to be." No, it's not. No, you don't understand. Like,
Yeah.
it's this huge rig. Much, these cinema cameras are just these giant things that are built out with, then if you pull a dolly in, people, or and then if someone's like working with a techno crane or something, people just the actors don't like they come in like what the hell, and that's really interesting because I was on set of a couple big features, and the DOPs were really people that were you know there was this person that the director's sitting back over here on the monitor, and the DOP was often much more involved at times. He would come up, the director would come and say something, the DOP's there though.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I think still, I believe that director should be like the one person who's talking to them about performance. But I
Yeah.
think I like to make, especially commercial. Commercial is really not super about performance. It's more about like
ma-
just what
ma-
we're selling, what the
yeah.
idea is, right?
Right.
We're selling the idea from the commercials, and we're selling the feelings on the features. So
True.
I think
True.
but like I like to be the person. I like to introduce myself, and then I like to be the person if they like actors needs anything, because like a lot of them like don't know, like we don't have name tags, so they don't know like who's AD,
Exactly.
like they don't even
Yeah.
know probably like who to ask the questions, and that's why like they're good friend with wardrobe and makeup, because like they spend a
Yes,
lot of
this is
time
so true.
beforehand, and then you
Yep.
walk into the set and then you have this like massive crew. It seems to be very stressed and like time's ticking,
Yep.
and I think it's important for them to know. Like I like to be the person if they need anything like water or whatever they need. I want to be the person who they can come up to me and then like I say, hey, like this light is so bright, like can you turn it down a little bit, and because we like to know, we like to help.
Yeah.
Like without the performance, there's nothing. So
Yeah,
I think the
right?
DP should be kind of protecting the environment in a way. And I think obviously like I talk to AD a lot on the day of, but I
Yeah.
think for us, like, if for instance, if there's a wall, well, let us create the wall there. Like,
Yeah.
even if it's off frame, or if they have to talk to actors, and then another actor is off site. Okay, well, let me bring that person in. Like, let me make sure that the space is less fabricated because it's so much fabrication going on.
Yeah.
Let me help you there, and I think I think that's a very important DP role.
That's really awesome. Now, do you have a favorite camera that you like to shoot on? Is there something that's your go-to camera, or do you just pick it for the
Yeah,
job?
so I shoot on Ari most of the time,
Nice.
Alexa Mini LF, and
Yeah.
it's been pretty much my go-to camera, unless like for some reason I have to be very compact or very
Yeah.
I can't afford those cameras. But um, yeah, I don't know. I think camera wise, um, since I came up from AC side, I AC'd a lot. I'm very strict about how it should be, and I
Nice.
think my philosophy of camera is it should be as small as possible, as compact as possible. No like
Mm.
weird shit, or no like extra cable that's like a coiled up a lot. Like if it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be coiled up, that like you just get a shoulder cable. Um, and I
Yeah.
think I like it to be something that I can grab and shoot,
Mm.
and something that I don't have to walk for it. Like I think it's like a paintbrush, right? Like you want
Yeah.
the camera to be invisible as possible. Like you want to focus on what camera is capturing, not walking with the camera. Like walking for the camera. Camera should work for me. And I
Yeah.
think yeah, I have a lot of like that's like another side of like my career that like I own a lot of gear,
Nice.
and partially because of that frustration of like, when you rent it from rental house, it's not how you want it to be, and it's just
Yeah.
takes time. And I just have very particular way that I want the camera to be, and that's I think the philosophy is just to make it invisible as possible. And I think Alexa's does that like very well.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's really cool, man. Now, what are some of your dreams that you would like to accomplish? What are some of the things that you really would like to aim for?
Yeah, right. Well, I think as I mentioned like a little bit before, I want to kind of be in the commercially made narrative, field.
Yeah,
So TV or feature film. Like a dream would be like a shooting feature films, right?
that's right.
And
That's awesome.
I love like all the sci-fi and action movies, sci-fi drama. Like those are like what I got me here.
Nice.
Because I liked Armageddon.
Yeah.
That's a movie that I kind of want to make. Space movie would be great. Something that
I want. My dream is to get on the Mandalorian someday. God, I'd love
yeah,
to be on this.
yeah, those are fun. But I think truth is, I think I started feeling like I'm not gonna get there. Like these days, especially after pandemic, I started feeling like, okay, I need to reassess myself because this lifestyle is not really sustainable per se. And
Interesting.
yeah, that's like another 2 hour conversation with yeah. I
I
think
understand.
yeah, I think so I think if I cannot get there, I don't know. I want to make something. I think that's the feeling that I'm missing a lot lately. Is watching the behind the scene of like Star Wars, or Lord of the Rings,
Yeah.
listening to James Cameron talking in masterclass. Like
Yeah.
we used to make things like, and I think that feeling is gone because I feel like I'm constantly shooting wide shot, medium shot, close up. We're not telling story. No, we're crafting anything that is challenging, and that's what advertising wants. But like I think only in a commercial, only in like a highest, you know, skilled people are making those like very crafty
Yeah.
commercials, and then like there are a lot of just talking commercials, right? And
Hmm.
somehow, so I started thinking maybe like I would be happy with second unit, like shooting second unit for like a big feature, or like
Yeah.
even doing the second unit for even smaller feature, or VFX people. I think I like to make it, make like try to figure something out and then make something happen. Maybe we didn't know when we started, like, if we can achieve it, but throughout troubleshooting, we would achieve something um, magnificent. I think that's something that I want to do eventually. But meanwhile, sure, I still want to tell a story.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I think something along the way. It's something that I could be proud of, like the
Nice.
results piece. And I think I'm proud of my collaborators, and I'm proud of like directors, producers, like how much shit that they deal with and how
Hmm.
smart they are. But I think it's hard to make something that you're truly proud of out of commercial when, especially if there's no budget or if there's no good
Yeah.
creative, because that's not really like what their interest is.
You're just recreating their storyboards essentially, and just giving them exactly what they've told you. But it's interesting that you talk about that, because I've met quite a few artists that I've spoken with that talk about sometimes what you have to do to pay the bills kills your creativity. It's like you have to just pay the bills, but that stuff just it's not what feeds you and feeds you creatively. And so,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think that my friend, he's a director. He said interesting thing about it is that in commercials, the director
Mm,
has a, I guess, responsibility to make most creative options. Well, their job descriptions to make a creative decisions, right? But
hmm.
they're the lowest totem pole of the creative power. So
Interesting.
they have to always report to like agency and the clients, and so they cannot make like they are hired to be creative, and they're the lowest position,
Power. Yeah.
yeah, in terms of power. So they, if he or she thinks, oh, this idea is stupid, but they want it, okay, we have to do this, like, and there are a lot of stuff happens, especially like inclusion of social media and all the things. It's just
Yeah.
the versions that they want to create is just insane, and it just
Yeah.
dilutes everything into McDonald's style of like filmmaking.
Interesting. Now, what would you do? What would you say? Let's imagine that I'm giving you a time machine, and you can go back in time and talk to a younger version of yourself. What advice would you give yourself?
Hmm. Yeah, something that I regret or wanted to change. I think I don't know what's the most useful advices
Mm,
are besides like some financial stuff, but I think I would say don't burn the bridges, like because
mm,
you think something is wrong or bad. Uh,
mm.
I think there are a lot of people who work in this industry that I feel like I just burned the bridges because they didn't do their project, but I told them like their project sucked or something like that, and then like they survived in the industry, and they're doing some amazing stuff. So, and then they are probably not gonna call me because I told them their thesis sucks. So like they are they did something that wasn't like helpful in a film school. Like I'm talking about film school friends.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I think and then also probably I tried to tell myself it's still really hard to do, but like I've been telling myself that hey, the ideas that like I don't want to do is the ideas that I should really consider doing it. because I feel like I've been making same thing over and over. I've tried to like the same way, not by choice. Like I still try to be inspired, but like it just kind of like fall into the same patterns, like because
Yeah.
technology is same, and like I shoot about 2 to 3 shoots a week, so that's a lot of shoots back to back, and
Yeah.
yeah, just kind of fall into default. I'm pretty sure that was like a keynote flow before, but we fall into LEDs, right?
Yeah.
And everything looks kind of similar. And it's
Yeah.
hard for a DP to be someone else because I think I have my sensitivity, and I watch a bunch of other people's sensitivities, and I always get surprised, like, wow, these guys are so good, and I just really suck, like, because I can do only one thing. And I'm pretty sure there are a lot of DPs feeling the same way about me or about
Yeah.
other people. But yeah, I think try to do something. I think this is not gonna be your last project. This is not gonna be your first project. Just trying to do something. They take risk and then do something that's new, and also just always think of entertainment business part. I think it just needs to be
Yeah.
entertained in every level. I think
Yeah.
I've been focusing on that at the other level a lot lately. That um, I've been starting feeling like filmmaking is no longer fun. And it is fun, like in retro, like from the distance, like I could see myself enjoying it, or like after the shoot's done, like oh, that's great because I sprinted, like I was sprinting, and that experience itself is fun. Um,
What do you think would help you find your passion again for this?
um, well, a lot of people say I should start turning down the job and then take time off and not crunch myself and not flying all the time. I think definitely overworked. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's just kind of contradicting theory, right? Like, because like a lot of successful mentors of mine said, yes, you gotta shoot whatever comes in your way, right? But I'm at the point where I feel like maybe I need to pick a project, but meanwhile, I do respect all the directors that I work with, and it's not, the project doesn't turn out to be good. Well, the directors are not the reason that project always sucks. So,
Yeah. Right.
so that's kind of like struggle. I think I just need
Yeah.
to probably do something that's not a commercial project, but or maybe I just need to go therapy. I think one of my friends told me that. Well, the problem of me is I'm looking for satisfaction and happiness in the job and work, but that's just not going to come from it. And I think that's truly that. Like, I think I just need to be a happy person, and then like I'll be happy, like with whatever it is. Like Roger Deakins always talks about how he's not happy about his work after he shoots like Academy-winning movies, and
Yeah.
yeah. So I think it's his problem and not the work that we think it's a masterpiece. So yeah.
That's really interesting. Now let's imagine that I have like Aladdin's lamp. I have that genie's lamp that you get a
You have
wish.
that?
I wish. I can imagine. I have some bottled water here, but let's imagine. What would you wish for? You got one wish.
Well, definitely, I wish it's not from the new Aladdin movie.
It's the
Definitely,
Robin
yeah,
Williams.
yeah,
We're going back to
Robin
Robin
Williams.
Williams.
The wish can I assume I cannot be the king because Genie's gonna tell me that's not how it should be. So I cannot cheat the way out. But
No extra wishes. That's not going to happen.
I don't know, for the filmmaking, I guess like maybe it's just as cynical it is. I don't know. Maybe like I just want more momentum in my career. I guess
That's a nice thing.
yeah, that's kind of like what I want, but I don't know how to get that with besides me being better or like the job being better. I guess Well, I guess that's a dark question, that dark answer. But I guess like
No.
maybe I want I want to be offered for the amazing script, and I want to oh, I want that job. Like like I think like one of my favorite movies, like Forrest Gump. Like if you see
Man, it's a
if you
great
see
movie.
script like that, or any like script that inspire you, I think
Yeah.
that I think that's why we're in this film business. And then I think um it's just rare. It's just super rare. It's not like even Hollywood doesn't have that. So
Yeah.
I want to read the script, and then I want that job to be offered to me. I think that would be like I think that's just a dream, right?
That's awesome.
Even big
What
budget or small budget, whatever it is.
well, tell me. I want to hear some more of your favorite movies. What are some of your favorite movies?
Um, I mean that's a hard one to answer, but I have two movies to point, which are I normally tell people Forrest Gump and Fight Club. I think those are two very different movies, and like
No, I
kind
love
of
those both.
kind of has different kind of vibes. But I think by now, I mean, watching movie is still my hobby, and that's the reason that I want to be in this industry. If I stop watching movies, I'm probably gonna leave the industry. And I think the movies that I like are definitely character-driven movies. Like,
Hmm.
I think the Michael Arndt from the Pixar has a great story analysis of like how movies should be, and it's about the people with character flaws, and it, I think I like to I like those movies that's character driven and not subplot driven, which I hate
Mm.
the most. So yeah, sorry I didn't answer it
No,
in
that's
an
great, man.
interesting
It
way,
was
but
great. No, dude, it was an awesome answer. It was awesome. You got I think that those are phenomenal movies, and Fight Club is classic, man. It's such a great movie. So,
yeah, the visual in the Fight Club is insane. You can stop
right,
the picture any moment, and it's just pure perfection. But that's
right.
David Fincher's just highest point, I feel like.
I
Yeah,
agree, man. Well, that's awesome. Well, I want to say I really appreciate your time today, and it was a fun conversation, man.
yeah.
And
Thank you.
thanks for coming on the podcast.